Stimson, a man of sober judgment. Forrestal, somebody who tended to inflate threats, assume the worst.
Inflate threats, assume the worst.
And insist on a militarized solution as the best way to defend against the threat that he saw. And in the book I try to describe...
Are you talking about Iraq now? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, in the book I try to describe him as the first of a new breed of national security expert. And I think I describe his, in a sense, successor. I don't mean successor as Secretary of Defense, but somebody cut from the same cloth who continues the Forrestal style as Paul Nitze, very famous as the author of a document called NSC 68, which is really one of the foundational documents of the U.S. strategy in the Cold War. And I think in many respects one of Nitze's successors, again not in terms of position but in terms of mindset, would be Paul Wolfowitz, who by the time we get to the post 9/11 period has risen to a position of great influence. And again, I think had this tendency to overstate threats, to exaggerate danger, to be unwillingness to accept risk, and to insist that the solution to our national security problems lies in the aggressive use of military power. So there is a mindset or a set of common assumptions that tends to pervade influential members of the national security elite, beginning with Forrestal. And I don't mean that these people have bad intentions or that they view themselves as honorable servants of the state who are trying to do what they think is right. But in my own judgment, in recurrent ways, they get things fundamentally wrong, and rather than contributing to our security, actually undermine it.
Yes, it's what I consider a lawyeristic kind of thinking. If X then Y, if Y then Z, and you point out that they understate the benefits of doing nothing. We would have been much better off doing nothing in Vietnam, because all the claims of what would ultimately, that all proved to be untrue.
Right.
That proved to be untrue.
They failed to consider the possibility of letting time solve the problem, exactly. And they also failed to gauge accurately the consequences, the unintended consequences of using force. So they imagine that force can provide a economical and politically effective solution to a problem, when history, I think, would tell us that even if force is necessary at times, and it is, that almost always the use of force gives rise to unintended consequences, and it's almost always far more costly than the advocates of force are willing to acknowledge. The Iraq War being a perfect example. It's now the second most expensive war in our country history, second only to World War II. And the truth is, we're not anywhere close to seeing the last bill. It's already $1 trillion war. It's probably going to be a $2 trillion war.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.